we will begin the presentation now. Today we're going to talk about updating your content marketing and your SEO strategy. So this is a topic that we pretty much can do every month if we wanted to, because there's always news and new ways to do things. There's some big updates from years ago that we want to touch base on, and of course we want to go through general strategy that will make this evergreen, and you won't have to change every day because Google keeps changing. The idea is to help you create a content strategy and an SEO strategy that doesn't depend on Google changing things every day. So we'll talk about that. So brief introduction, I'm Gabriel Marguglio. I'm the CEO and founder of Nextiny Marketing. We are a Diamond HubSpot solution partner in Florida, but we serve clients all around the country. I'm a family man. I love gardening, and recently started raising butterflies, which actually Stephanie, who's connected there too, started in our agency. She's the one that brought the butterflies to our lives, and now we're raising butterflies. Yesterday, we released 7 monarch butterflies into the world. So trying to help a little bit there. I'm a drummer. I used to put frustrated drummer in all my presentations, and now I'm not frustrated anymore because I'm drumming again, rocking and rolling there. And again, family man, I have an awesome wife who's also my partner, and that's awesome. And I have 4 amazing kids. So if you hear them in the back, they're old enough to not be heard, but if you hear them in the back, that's them. And I own more than 200 typewriters. What you see here is actually the real thing. These guys actually work, and I own more than 200, which is insane. A little bit of a pandemic collection there. Brian, go ahead.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm Brian Gorman. I'm a senior account manager here at Nextiny, like Gabriel mentioned. So I've been working here for 4 years. I really started on like the SEO content side of things. So this is definitely a topic that's exciting for me, and something that I am excited to share with you guys, and learn more about like what questions you guys have, so we can help out in any way we can. So just a little bit about me. I'm an avid television watcher. This past year working remotely has been great for that, but also been terrible because I haven't been able to have our Monday morning talk sessions with the team about what's recently happened on Game of Thrones or Mr. Robot. So I've been missing that, but I'm also an adult league hockey player. Again, haven't really been able to do a lot of that, but I'm excited to get back at it. And one positive thing that came out of working remote is I've been able to play music again and play with some friends. And we released some music early this year, which one of our songs just recently hit over 100,000 streams on Spotify, which is exciting. And it's been a fun little passion project for me.
What's the name of the band, Brian, so everybody can go check it out?
Yeah, please do. The name of the band is Camp Trash. So
he's famous. That's what we want to say. He's famous. Brian is famous. He is humble but famous. That's
yeah. We're really just leveraging the Sarasota HubSpot user group so that I can promote my band.
All right. So
awesome.
Today's agenda, we'll go through. Like I said, we'll talk about SEO and content creation updates. We'll talk about the way the search has changed, the way Google has changed. We'll talk about pillar pages and topic clusters. We'll give you examples. We'll give you tools that you can use not only to do keyword research and to build these pieces of content, but also to grow over time. And then we'll talk about how to build a content strategy. We'll talk about reusing your current content, which is an underrated strategy. We use that strategy pretty much for all of our customers, all of our clients, and it's amazing the kind of results that we get from reusing content and updating old content, and how to fuel your content strategy with video and podcast efforts. And we'll go through a Q&A at the end. Brian, do you wanna go?
Yeah, let's do it. So I mean, the reason why we're here really is just to talk through, things that have changed. But I think to start, we really got to think about it in a way that, the way that we have searched has changed, right? The way users are searching has changed, which is really what's kind of brought on, for us as marketers and SEO people, like we really got to think about the content we create differently too. So, and just as an example, and Gabriel, you can go to the next slide if you'd like. So back in 2010, 11, 12, things were a little bit simpler, right? We would go to Google and search things like, restaurants in DC. We'd be really specific. It'd be very non-conversational. And as SEO people, it made it simple for us, right? We could just do some keyword research, create a page that had some, had restaurants in DC on it, that had a couple of examples, didn't have to be extremely complicated or super long or comprehensive. And we could get the #1 ranking just for having some of those keywords in there. But now, we're being more conversational. We're more contextual with what our searches are. And, because of devices like, Google Home and Siri, like we've gotten used to just asking questions and talking to our devices or talking to the search engine and asking what we're looking for. So, instead of saying restaurants in DC, we're now asking what's the best restaurant open near me right now, right? So that because of these changes in the ways that users are using search engines, it's really important that, Google also made some updates and changes for that, right? So the way Google interprets and ranks content has changed because users has changed, right? And so just going through some of the timeline stuff. So these are just an example of some of the updates over the years. Something that we're really going to focus on and something we mentioned in the agenda is just in the RankBrain update that really kind of changed the way that content is being ranked. And also it's focusing more on the intent of the searcher, right? It's not so important that you have a keyword that's ranking really well. Something that's also really important is making sure that you're creating content that is matching the intent of what people are searching for. And so again, just to kind of give you a definition of that RankBrain update. So it's a machine learning algorithm Google uses to search for synonyms and related words, not just the exact word you search for. So like I said, it's getting smarter. It's becoming more human, which is what's important for us to think through when we're creating content. So for an example, marketing agency, like I said, in 2012, we'd go and search for marketing agency, but now Google's understanding more than just that. It's going to show you things like marketing agency Sarasota, if you're in Sarasota, digital marketing agency, online marketing agency, top marketing agency. So it's starting to understand more contextually like what you're searching for, because Google knows where you are. They know they can understand more of what the intent behind what you're searching for is, not just the specific keywords like I mentioned. So again, so what does this mean for us? Like, what does this mean for you as marketers and as SEO people, right? So like I said, search engines aren't your customers, humans are. And something, as an account manager, something that I often do when I'm working with clients is I really, I encourage them to really think about, what adds value for their customers when they're thinking through SEO and content creation. Because ultimately that's what matters most, right? What matters most is that you're creating value for your customers, because your customers are human beings who want to be treated like human beings. And so I think that, to start, that is really an important note to consider. So, so to create content that converts visitors into leads and eventually customers, you need to create a helpful, positive user experience that solves for both the searcher and the search engine. Not just one or the other. So while I say that creating valuable content is important, the technical side of it is also important. But it's something where I think as SEO people and as marketers, we got a little too hung up on trying to beat the system and trying to beat Google, that we kind of forgot the value of what we're really doing. So something that we're going to start talking through and how we can create this content, or how we can I guess in this new way of SEO, what we want to do is create things that are considered targeted clusters of relevant content that cover a specific topic in depth. So something that HubSpot has been preaching the past couple of years, and something that they even built into their software, is this thing considered topic clusters, right? So rearranging your site architecture to clusters of related content that link to a central pillar page. And so what this really does is it really helps, it organizes your site content better, right? It makes it easier for Google to search and understand what topics that you are an authority in, and what supporting content you have relevant to those topics. And again, like back in the day, you would create all this content that was very focused on keywords, and there was a lot of redundancy, right? You would end up creating, 10 different articles that were all about the same thing, but just trying to get a different keyword. This kind of helps refine that, and it actually kind of makes your life a little easier because, you know, you can think through a topic and then exhaust the different subtopics, and not have to create the same content over and over and just appease a keyword. And you can now, you know, appease your customer, right? And so this is just an example of of what this looks like inside HubSpot, right? So here's an example. This is actually within our own account. So we thought through, we have video marketing obviously is a big service for us. So we have a pillar page that's dedicated to that. And then we have all the supporting content around it. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but even the linking between them is also something that's really important to note when we're building this out. So having a clean, organized site architecture allows bots to crawl your site quicker and easier. So as I mentioned, it's, you know, having this kind of structure makes it easier for Google to crawl. It makes it easier for them to understand, you know, what your authority is, what topics that that you should be ranking for, which then again makes getting ranked, you know, being on the search page a little bit easier. So, something to strongly consider. And this also enables your audience to find the resources they need quickly and easily. So everything kind of comes back to user experience, right? Like, you know, Google wants to offer their users the best experience possible. So if they're searching for something and they're getting on your website, you know, if they find it through a page you created, through content you created, and then they're going to more pages within your website, you know, all of that just shows Google and tells Google, oh, they're creating content that is giving my users the best experience possible. So they're going to reward that with giving you ranking as well. So something that we're really going to talk through today is pillar pages. So this is something that if you guys have, you know, been HubSpot users for a while now, something that you've probably heard quite a bit about, and something that we've definitely adopted as an agency and are trying to build more because we've seen that they've worked. So, but what it is a website page that covers a specific topic in depth and is linked to a cluster of related content. So similar to what we had just shown you up above, it works, you know, very similar to that. So we'll show you an example of that here shortly.
One other thing to discuss is that the types of pillar pages, it doesn't necessarily have to be a long piece of content. Sometimes it could be a resource page. So maybe we can give some examples later. People, when they talk about pillar pages, they only talk about, most of the time, a very long piece of content, ungating a guide you already have. And we'll talk about some of those ideas later. But it could also be a resource page, because at the end of the day, even though those links to other places, because you create a resource page, a comprehensive resource page, Google will see the value in that, because if you have all the resources necessary for one topic, you're actually saving people's time, and you're saving Google's back and forth for people to go back to Google and then back to the website. So, so a pillar page could be many different things.
Perfect. Yep. So we're going to kind of walk through how we created this topic cluster, right? So, we're talking about SEO, we're talking about content. I think this is extremely relevant. So, so how you can start building your content strategy. So you kind of start right with the pillar, the main topic of what you want to build authority around. And so for us as a marketing agency, where SEO is a big it's a big service for us, and it's something that we want to be an authority in, that we thought that, well, let's start there. Let's start with SEO as like that main topic. And then breaking that down even further, we're talking through like a specific topic related to that main topic. And so for us, that was the SEO guide, right? We wanted to create an offer, or create a page that really spoke to guide, somebody that tells us from the intent side that they're looking for help with SEO, right? They're looking for kind of a DIY solution to SEO themselves and ways to help them grow their business. So we wanted to definitely be more of an authority in that space. And so a pro tip, if you're going to take the time to create content that educates your audience, make sure it connects to and supports at least one of your products or services. So just like I mentioned, SEO, a big component for us, something that we thought we definitely wanted to have more search volume for on our website. So we started there. So then breaking that down even further, we have, we want to start thinking through the subtopics, right? And these subtopics would just be like blogs on your website, right? So for us, we thought through, how does SEO work, top free SEO tools, how to improve on-site SEO, creating an SEO-friendly content strategy. And again, just like you would if you guys are familiar with, if you've done any blog content creation in the past, coming up with these topics is, going through some keyword research, understanding, what are your competitors talking about? What are your customers looking for? That's, easy ways to kind of find content to support your main pillar. So pro tip here, if you're looking for a place to start when identifying subtopics, consider the questions your audience has around the specific topic you chose to write about. So a good place to start, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys already have an idea of what these topics are for your business. Again, like if you're thinking about a pillar page strategy, and this is something that was taught to me early on, is if pillar pages are meant to get a small sliver of a very large search volume pie. So what's really important to note is, first of all, is that topic something that gets a lot of search volume? And then from there, is it really relevant to your business and relevant to your audience? So ways to do that, obviously, kind of take a look at your own content, take a look at your own website, seeing kind of what topics or search terms you guys are already getting traffic for, and also talk to your sales team, understand what questions they get a lot. And then you can also use some tools. We use a tool called Answer the Public. This is great. Again, the way people are searching has changed. A lot more people are just going to Google and asking questions. So if we can start to figure out what questions people are asking in relation to these topics that we want to create content around, if we can have answers to those questions, great. That's a great way to start when you're thinking through, building out these subtopics for your pillar page. So this is something that I use every day. Keywords Everywhere. It's a Chrome extension, so something you can just add to your Google Chrome, and it's right within the Google interface. So as you're Googling certain things, or if you're doing some keyword research and trying to understand, you can just go into Keywords Everywhere, or go into Google, type in your keyword, and then it gives you a bunch of good data in relation to that. Uber Suggest, so this is the Neil Patel tool. I really enjoy this tool. I think it's really comprehensive, does a great job. One thing I really enjoy about it is the what you see there on the right-hand side, being able to kind of see like what content is ranking, and how many links do they have, how many visits are they getting, how many social shares, and it gives you an idea of kind of what kind of content maybe you should be inspired by when you're looking at this, because if Google's ranking this number one, chances are they're doing something right. So kind of learn from what is already working with Google, right?
One thing that I would add here is, the reason why you see these numbers here is because traditional on-site SEO is still important, right? Like, we're talking about pillar pages, we're talking about content, we're talking about blogging. Blogging and creating articles and creating these structures does not replace on-site SEO, like technical SEO. Technical SEO is still very, very important. You have to have your H1 tags. You have to have the keywords in there. You shouldn't make it bigger than this amount of characters. The structure of your website needs to be clean in the programming side of way. So your website structure, the way it was programmed, the templates and all those things is crucial in order for Google to be able to parse and the bots to actually go through your site and the content on your site. So we're not even discussing that because we're assuming that didn't change, that you're already doing this. And of course, if you're using HubSpot, which you should, all the SEO tools are embedded. So you put together a blog and it tells you the title's too long, or the H1 tag doesn't include a keyword, or things like that, or you have more than one H1 tag, or you don't have subheadings. All those things are still very important. And of course, we have guides that we will share with you. We have a whole SEO guide pillar page that we're talking about right now that describes all those little things that need to happen. But these are updates to general structure and strategy, because if you just do on-site SEO, technical SEO, that's not going to be enough. You need to create comprehensive and valuable content for your audience to be found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Yeah, I mean, on-site SEO, technical SEO, that's kind of the foundation that everything's built off of. content creation that focuses on this kind of topic cluster strategy is a way to really like evolve that and take it to the next step, take it to the next level. Awesome. So we'll do a little recap here. So, using a topic cluster content strategy, we're really doing this because, oh, did I get into the Moz stuff yet? Sorry.
Let's go to Moz and maybe talk about other tools that they can.
Sure. Yeah. So Moz is a tool that we use quite often. Their Keyword Explorer is great from a keyword standpoint. I think if you guys have used other keyword tools, it's very similar to that. It doesn't have like much difference from there, but one thing that I think is really valuable is their competitor analysis tool. If you have some competitor websites that you guys are trying to rank up against, you can do a really great analysis of how your website compares to them from a keyword standpoint, what they're ranking for, what you're ranking for, what that overlap is, and then what are things that they're ranking for that you aren't, that you want to take advantage of as well. So Moz is a great tool for that. There's a number of different tools that you can use. SEMrush is another one that's really great if you're looking for something paid and more advanced. But then there's also a bunch of free tools. Uber Suggest and Keywords Everywhere is one of those examples as well. So just to kind of recap, the way that we search has changed, which has kind of made the way that Google had to kind of adapt to that. So search engines aren't your customers, humans are. Topic clusters rearrange your site architecture to make it easier for bots and humans to navigate, which is ultimately a good thing for your users. Use this strategy to build authority around topic areas you want your business to be known for, and use your content mission statement as your guiding light. So yeah, again, like this is all this is meant to create a better user experience for your customers, your ideal, your prospects, and be more of an educational tool instead of just trying to beat the search engines. What's important is to really speak to your audience. And so something that is really important to note too is, this isn't something that you have to start from scratch with, right? Like you definitely can take advantage of the content you've already created. You worked hard for it. You probably paid a lot of money for it at the same time. So it's always good to kind of start there, right? So, go ahead and kind of audit your current website pages and blog articles, create a content strategy based on the pillar pages and topic cluster model, and then kind of go back into your current database of content and see, does anything align? And I'm sure it will with these new strategies that you're coming up with, and reorganize it and restructure it using the HubSpot SEO tool. That's something we can kind of walk through maybe at the end here, but use that tool to really identify what content you already have, connect it to pillar page content if you have some pillar page content already, or maybe prioritize what pillar pages you want to create in the future. So this is something that we've done for ourselves and with other clients, and it's worked really well, right? Like we've had content that's gone back like 5-6 years that at one point ranked really well. We were getting a ton of organic traffic to it, and then it started kind of plateauing and going downhill because it wasn't as relevant, right? Google doesn't want to show articles that were promoted in 2015. They want to show refresh content that's relevant to an audience now. So that content it might still be relevant, but maybe you have some outdated call to actions, or maybe you've since created a video, add that asset into the page and republish it and re-promote it on social, and you can start seeing some lift from content that you've already created. It's a great way to to not have to kind of reinvent the wheel, right?
There's a piece of content that you can create if you can find something like top 10 tools to do this, like top 10 tools to do SEO, or top 10 HubSpot integrations. Like on our end, we create a lot of content like that. And if you can create something in your industry like that, the top 10 pool types, the top 10, the top 5 companies in this area, or the top 10 technologies, whatever it is that the top 10 areas in Florida to move. You create these processes and these notices internally to actually update these pieces of content regularly. So if it's a yearly, an annual piece of content, we have many of those for us and for our customers. And we go every year and we refresh it, 2021, 2022. And by refreshing it, not just changing the year, right? You change the year and the subject line, you actually go and update the tools. You say why you update the areas or the tools or whatever it is. And you repost it and you reshare it on social media. That piece of content will have a refreshed ranking on Google. You will get a lot of visits from social, a lot of visits from SEO. And that could be a process you have ongoing on an annual basis that continues to refresh that piece of content regularly. And it's not a lot of work. You already have most of the work done. Most of the stuff is not going to change. You just update something, put it back on, and it has new live.
Oh, Gabriel, I think your audio is off. Sorry.
Want to share before we go into fueling on video and podcasts, any other tactics or any other specific tips that you want to share, Brian?
Nothing off the top of my head right now. I'm sure as we get into like the FAQs and some questions, we can definitely address that.
Yeah, one of the many things that we've seen lately is the use of the footer area to have very keyword specific, like all your pillar pages that should be very product or service specific, having those keywords on the footer with links to those pillar pages is a great strategy that has been working for a lot of our customers and other partners that we work with.
That is actually something that you just brought up that I don't think it was mentioned here. It was something that is also really important with the pillar page and topic cluster model is the linking architecture, right? Is really thinking through, you're going to have all these supporting blogs. You're going to have the pillar page. It's important to make sure that you're linking from those blog articles. And Gabriel's pulling up the video marketing topic cluster that we have. So yeah, what's really important here is showcasing, you want to have the pillar page content as the central pillar, and then all those subtopics, you want to have those linking, from the pillar page, and then from those pages themselves linking back to the pillar page. So, what that does from a site crawl perspective is, Google is now understanding that video marketing is a topic that we're an authority in, and now we have all the supporting content to really back that up. And like I said, when we're talking about people who are searching for video marketing and they get to our website, we want to encourage them to continue to click through to other things on our website, right? Like we want them to continue to educate themselves and dig deeper on some of the topics that we talk about. And by doing so, it triggers, it gives that signal to Google, let them know, all right, this is, people are spending a lot of time on this website. They're not just bouncing away. This is a website and a topic and a page that we should definitely rank higher and give authority to, because it's giving our users a really good experience. Awesome.
So let's go back to fueling your content strategy with video. Again, if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat pane. We'll be going through those questions at the end of the presentation. I know there's a couple questions already in there, so we'll go through there. We'll go through those at the end. So I'll talk a little bit about how to fuel content strategies with video and podcast efforts. I know, a lot of people have a problem with content, which is it takes a lot of time to create content. It takes a lot of time to edit the content, create valuable content. And writing blogs, even though there are amazing resources like Verblio, for example, is one of the companies we use, a great partner of ours, another HubSpot integration and part of the HubSpot ecosystem. Verblio allows you to manage a lot of writers that write amazing content that they're specific for industry. So you can save a lot of time by working with partners like that, or by having your own writers or outsourcing those processes. But no matter what, the process is going to take time. The process is going to require for you to edit the content accordingly. And also the substance needs to be there. The question is, are you proud of this piece of content going out? Is this going live? Is this a piece of content that you would read in its entirety? Like, would you read the whole article if you were the audience, right? So you need to ask yourself those questions. So because content is such an important part, but also such a time consuming, it's hard to get approval from the different people that need to be part of the process. If you're writing about product specific or service specific things, then you need approval internally, and it's time consuming. We solve this issue a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, by shooting video first. Now, this is not just shooting a product video or a how-to video and then turning that into a blog. We're not talking about only creating professional video that then turns into a blog. Of course, if you have a video strategy, which you should, and if you don't know much about it, you can come to our workshop tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on the video HubSpot user group of America. But if you are doing professional video, those videos, when you think about the strategy of creating those videos, yes, you could create a video for your homepage, a video for your About Us page, but then you can start thinking about, okay, how those videos could be part of your content strategy. Therefore, if you're creating a how-to video that could be used in your sales process, that also could be used in your customer service team to serve your customers, your current customers, that video could also be turned into a blog, or it could be turned into a knowledge base piece of content. All these efforts are going to help your SEO. So you can reuse a lot of those efforts. What's cool about this is the video had its own process and approval. And once the video is approved, it's very easy to create a piece of content because the person that actually created the video already went through the process. It's them saying it. So turning that into an article will be an article that it's going to be easier to get approval internally. It's going to get quicker buy-in, and you can create this as a process. You can work together. The video team and the content team should work together to create pieces of content that you can reuse over time. And of course, you can track results. You can combine them. You can embed the video in the piece of content, so people that are more visual or auditory can actually listen to it or watch the video. But people that like to read more can actually read the article. Now, one thing we always talk about is let's talk about video series, for example, or podcast. This is great for a video series of podcasts. We do this a lot. We have a video series called MarTech Masters, where we talk to leaders in the marketing technology industry, a lot of them from HubSpot and the HubSpot ecosystem. But these videos, we turn them into a podcast, and then that podcast, we turn it into a blog. Now, it's not necessarily the transcription of the video into a podcast, and it's just the sound from the video into a podcast, and then the transcription of the podcast into a blog, because those pieces of content will be consumed differently. So you can add visual cues on the video because people are watching. On the audio, you need to remember, if you had visual cues, that those need to be added now. When you said click on this link on the video, people are not going to be able to do that on the sound. So you need to find a way to say that, go to our website and add the URL or something like that. Or say for links, go to our blog and click on all the links. So have a resource so people that are reading, listening to it while they're running, they can get the resources. And then create a blog that's not just the transcript, but create a skimmable blog that has the most important pieces of that video, the most important pieces of that piece of content. So people that are reading it, they get the key pieces, and if they want to watch the whole thing, they can watch the whole thing. But digest that piece of content and give them something valuable for them. So if you start with video, you always win, because at the end of the day, if the video is great, and this is the other side of the video creation process, you can use video as a tool. You can have your team members to create video that is not going to be posted on your website or social or presented to customers, but they could be videos that you can have the engineer or the expert in whatever topic, or the realtor, or whomever you're working with, talking about that thing they know a lot. If the video is great, you can reuse it as part of your video strategy. If the video is not great, but the sound is great, you can add B-roll. You can add beautiful homes and drone shots and things like that, and then have the sound used. But you can always use that as text. So you can drive your video, your content strategy, by using video, not only as videos that you will use in your marketing, sales, and customer service efforts, but also to interview internally the key people that know the information, which is also, again, if they said it in a video, it's going to be easier to transcribe and create a blog or a pillar page, an article from that content, because they already said it. They said it, they're going to get it approved. This is a good example of what I was talking about. We have this video series and podcast called MarTech Masters, and we have the video that you can watch. These are very long. These are like 45 minutes. And again, you can learn more about this in tomorrow's workshop. But then we turn those into podcasts. But as you can see on the blog on the right, you have the video, you have the podcast you can listen. You can go to the different platforms if you like to listen to it in, Spotify or whatever. But then you will have text that's going to be top takeaways, top quotes, guests at a glance, links. So it's not going to be it's not going to be an hour of reading, right? It's not going to be 45 minutes of reading. It's going to be an easier piece of content to digest. Brian, did I miss anything you want to add there? You're on mute.
Yeah, no, I don't think you really missed anything. I think one thing I was just going to mention on the SEO side of things too for video is, again, when we were talking about like reusing content or like republishing content, I know I mentioned it a little bit, but adding video to that content, does a number of things, right? It refreshes that content, adds some relevancy to it, but also it increases time on site. So people who are going to these pages and accessing your videos, they're now spending more time because they're digesting that content. So it does have a very large SEO benefit to consider. Definitely.
So these are some next steps before we go into Q&A here. We talked about performing an audit on your content. This is crucial because it'll save you so much time. You can turn your guides that you already have in PDF form, or your checklist that you have, you can turn all those resources into a pillar page. A lot of people do that. Ungate the PDF. You can still have the gating. You can still have the landing page with a form and a PDF that people can download for lead generation efforts, but you can ungate the content as a pillar page and then create content around it or structure content around it. And that will do both things. You can do lead gen on the form and the landing page, but attract the right people with the pillar page. Performing that audit will save you a lot of time. But one thing we've seen with Brian and the whole team, every time we go in, not only we find a lot of content we can reuse, but first of all, we find the content that's not there, right? Because people keep creating the same content over and over again. And we find the content we can reuse. A lot of times it's not going to be just, an article is going to be part of the topic cluster. Sometimes we need to combine articles. Sometimes we have like 2-3 blogs that are about the same thing. We can combine them together. Or sometimes you have 2, 3, 4 blogs that are very comprehensive about the topic, that you can put them together and make that pillar page from those articles that were not being very successful because they were like a little diluted. You can put them all together into a pillar page. Create your, filling those gaps, putting together that pillar page, build links between the pillar page and the cluster content as we discussed. Make sure the linking is not just a list of links. Google likes when links are part of the text, even though it needs to be keyword rich. The keywords need to be part of the link. Google likes when it's part of the conversation. It's part of the content and not just links at the bottom. Promote the pillar page, and of course, bring your audience to it. And one thing that's important is there needs to be some kind of lead generation strategy behind this whole thing. Don't just, there's many schools here. Sometimes it's like, just let the traffic come to our website, and if they're ready to go, they will contact us. We will talk about these things in lead generation in other HubSpot user groups and workshops. But think about it, add call to actions in the middle of the pillar page that are relevant to that specific area, add call to actions at the bottom of every blog or throughout the blog. All that linking and all those call to actions will also add lead generation efforts to these SEO efforts. So it's not just bringing people to your website through SEO and your content strategy is just the first step. You always need to think about how to turn these efforts into leads and potential customers. We'll share some of these resources. There's a lot in the HubSpot Academy. There's a lot of great lessons you can go through and watch. Also, some certifications you can take. So let's go in through some of the questions. I'll read some of the questions, and Brian, you can answer what you know, and then I can chip in too. All right.
Sure.
So we have how high should the search volume be for a pillar page?
Yeah, I don't think this is necessarily something that you need to focus so much on the search volume. I know I mentioned that you want a high search volume or a small percentage of a high search volume pie. But I think what's really important is to think about how competitive that keyword is. Like, are a lot of people, how relevant is it to your business? Like, if that's a keyword that's driving a lot of opportunities for you, then building a pillar page strategy around it might be right, even if the volume is, from a pillar page standpoint, relatively lower. But I think also, thinking about it from, are there a lot of your competitors that are, fighting for this keyword and you're struggling to rank for it and getting traffic for it? Maybe start there, right? It's not so much the search volume, but, what is that keyword or what's that topic? How is that affecting the actual opportunities you're getting for your business?
Yeah, and think about the intent, right? Like, when we're talking about pillar pages, we're going to the intent, the main intent, right? Like, I know we gave an example of SEO, search engine optimization. Of course, if someone is searching for search engine optimization, they have a very clear intent. They're trying to get their website showing up on Google. So that's the initial conversation you need to have internally, is what is the intent of your audience? Who are you trying to attract, and what their intent is, and what's their pain, right? Like, why do they have this intent? Why are they searching for that specific topic? And you're always, like Brian said before, you're always trying to grab a very broad topic, a very broad intent as part of the pillar page that has a higher volume, a higher search volume. And search volume is relevant. It's a relative, because one thing is to search for a product that everybody in the world needs, and another thing is something very niche oriented to a specific micro audience. 100 people a month could be a lot for your product, when 1 million is not enough for another product, right? Like, if you're doing B2B software, having 100 customers is nothing. You need thousands. But if you're a law firm, or you're selling $5 million homes, if you sell 20 a year, then you're great. So search volume is going to be relative to your audience and to the products and services that you provide. So keep that in mind too. But again, the higher the volume you have with that intent, with that main topic, the better. So what I would do is I would compare with the multiple topics you have. Let's say you decided that these are the 10 main pillar pages, or the 5 pillar pages you need to create, the 5 main things you want to promote, and the 5 main intents you want to go through. Search for different keywords in that to find the highest search volume, and make that keyword the one you base everything on, because that is going to increase the probability of people finding it. Now, I know we talk about keywords a lot here, but people need to remember that Google doesn't work in keywords anymore. Like we talked about with PageRank, Google is all about intent and understanding what people are searching. So if you're ranked for SEO guide or video guide or whatever it is that you're looking for, what's going to happen is you're going to rank for thousands of keywords around that keyword that are relevant to that same topic. So we have a customer that we do marine construction marketing, and you know, they do seawalls and they do things like that. So we make them rank with seawall construction, which is a very broad topic if you think about it. That could be all around the world. It could be all kinds of seawalls. It could be a tiny seawall for a home, or a seawall for a whole hotel that is, or a whole city that is a $50 million project. But then we specifically talk about topics that are more, we go more specific when we go into the blogs, talking about seawalls in Florida, the types of homes that need different concrete seawalls versus vinyl seawalls. So what happens is, by creating that whole thing, now they come up with thousands of keywords around seawall construction. If you search for, they're also number one. So that is cool, because whoever is looking for seawall construction in the area will find them too. Let's go to the second question. Should you link from the pillar page to the blog page or landing page, or the other way around, or both? Brian?
Yeah, we recommend doing both. You know, pillar page to the blog to landing page, or landing page to the pillar page, blog to the pillar page. So yeah, that linking architecture going back and forth, I think is really important.
Yeah, and if you use the HubSpot tool will tell you by a red line or a green line if the linking is done correctly or not. So that is the HubSpot SEO tool makes it super easy, and it also allows you to create those topics, and it tells you how the topics, how much volume, search volume do you have in there. It's a simple tool, but very powerful to create these little topic clusters.
And to that point too, something that is also really important is making sure that you're also using external resources. Like, you know, linking internally is important, but also Google encourages you to use resources that also are of authority, right? So you'll see throughout, if you go to our SEO guide on our website, you know, we're linking to websites like Moz that have authority, SEMrush that have authority. You know, so these are also ways. It's also important to make sure that you're doing some of that while also doing the internal linking as well.
Yeah. So how do you find topics that will apply to C-suites, to CEOs, CFOs? We need high-level topics, not how-tos or lists or checklists.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what the topics are, like what the industry is, like what it is that you guys are looking to attract that audience in. Because in some cases, you may be trying to attract a very, very niche industry with a topic that's very niche, and you know, maybe a pillar page strategy isn't really the right approach for that, right? So in some cases, that might be the instance. You know, in other cases, I think it's thinking about it in the same way. Like, what are they searching for? What is it that what information are they looking for? And you know, another thing to the question about what the search volume for pillar pages is, you know, it takes a lot of resources and time to build these pillar pages. So oftentimes that could be overkill, right? For this audience, you may be able to you may not have a ton of competition, and you may be able to just create a really nice blog article that talks about these things and use that to hopefully get some search organic traffic, and then also maybe to use it in the sales process. You know, if you're doing maybe some more like ABM type marketing or something like that, it's yeah, I think it really depends on the context.
So the next question, the question is, do you have any hugs on podcasts? Great question. We're going to touch on a lot of podcasting on our video HubSpot user group, because video and podcasts are so connected. When you run a video series, which we'll talk about it tomorrow, creating a podcast is a huge opportunity, and you can use the podcast to create a whole audience around your content. So definitely join us for tomorrow's workshop at the video hug, and we'll discuss that for sure. And I anticipate us creating a podcast workshop for the future for sure. So I'm a blogger and a marketing strategist. I work both in a startup whose reference sector is e-learning and design thinking, and at Gastronomy blog. My question is, how effective can be only audio and illustrations video? And only audio and illustrations video. So I don't know if you wanna expand on that question. I would say if you create a video that has pictures and audio, that's still effective for SEO, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do also as part of your SEO strategy is you're trying to keep people reading your piece of content. So if you can actually keep them longer on your site and keep them longer on that piece of content engaged, either by reading the content or watching a video or listening to something on that piece of content, time on site is one of the many things that Google keeps in mind when giving you rankings. So even a video that is simple as images and sound, or not even sound, images and text, that's still something that can increase your time on site. Now, you need to still remember that you need to create a piece of content that's valuable for your customers, for your audience. So don't just create something that is a trick to keep them engaged, because people are going to see it through very quickly, and they're going to say there's no value on this video, no value in this sound other than keeping me engaged. So they're going to just click out of it. Now, what's interesting is different people engage with your content differently. So if you create a sound version of it, if you create a video version of it, some people might be just watching at the video without sound, like they do a lot in social media, or just listening to it while they're running. So I would test these things, and depending on your audience, depending on if you're B2B, B2C, or whatever industry you're on, some piece of content might be better than others. And you can track all of this with HubSpot. And if you have tools like Wistia or Vidyard, you can track the video and the podcast. So I would recommend tracking as much as possible, and then understanding what's working, and then deciding, oh, let's do a better video. Let's create a podcast. Let's create more blogs, because that's gonna be from data that you got from the strategy. Any other questions out there? And also, Alessandra, did I answer your question on the video with illustrations? I want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. We're at the top of the hour. We have a couple more minutes, but I want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions and everybody got what they wanted. Anything else? Brian, do you have any other comments before we go?
No comments. Yeah, we can follow up with some of that stuff that we had discussed as far as like resources and stuff too. So.
And connect with us.
Yeah.
You know, we again, Next Any Marketing. We are a Diamond HubSpot agency in Sarasota. If you have any questions, connect with me on Twitter, G Marguglio. You can check all of this on the links that we're going to send, or Brian. But connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us on Twitter, and we'll be more than happy to help you with any questions you may have. All right, everybody. We'll also send you a link of the recording on the follow-up email and some resources you can check. And again, if you have any questions, we are here to help. We are the Sarasota HubSpot user group. And like I said, we also have the video HubSpot user group. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe, okay? Take care. Have a good day.